On November 24, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving, airports across the United States were filled with travelers. Families were excited to reunite. Businessmen were finishing last-minute trips. The air felt normal, busy, routine. At Portland International Airport, a man stood quietly in line and purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle. He gave the name Don Cooper. He paid in cash. No checked luggage, just a small black briefcase. He looked completely ordinary. He wore a dark suit, a white shirt, a narrow black tie held with a simple tie clip and loafers. His hair was neatly combed. He appeared to be in his mid-40s. Witnesses later described him as calm, polite, and well-spoken. Nothing about him suggested danger. Nothing about him suggested he would soon become one of the most mysterious figures in American crime history. He boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, a Boeing 727 aircraft. The flight to Seattle was short, only about 30 minutes. The passengers settled into their seats, the engines roared. The plane lifted into the cloudy November sky. Cooper chose a seat near the back of the aircraft. He ordered a bourbon and soda. He smoked cigarettes. He looked relaxed, almost bored. The flight attendants noticed nothing unusual. Outside, gray clouds drifted by. Inside, passengers chatted quietly or read newspapers. Then, shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a folded note to a flight attendant. At first, she thought it was a phone number, but he leaned toward her and quietly said, "Miss, you'd better read that note." "I have a bomb?" Her heart must have stopped for a second. She opened the note. It was neatly written. It demanded $200,000 in cash. It demanded 4 parachutes. It demanded that a fuel truck be ready when the plane landed in Seattle. He said he had a bomb in his briefcase. He opened the case slightly. Inside were red cylinders connected to wires. It looked real. He remained calm, almost gentle in his tone. He did not panic. He did not shout. That calmness made the situation even more chilling. The cockpit was informed immediately. Air traffic control was contacted. On the ground in Seattle, authorities rushed to collect the ransom money. The serial numbers of every bill were carefully recorded. The situation quickly drew the attention of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, but at that moment the priority was clear: protect the passengers. The plane circled in the air to buy time. Imagine the tension inside that cabin. The flight attendants walking up and down the aisle, pretending everything was normal. The passengers unaware that a hijacking was unfolding. Outside, the clouds grew darker as the plane waited. Finally, the aircraft landed in Seattle. The ransom money was delivered in a canvas bag. 4 parachutes were brought on board. Cooper examined the money calmly. He looked through the bundles, satisfied. Then he allowed the passengers to leave. One by one, they stepped off the plane, still unaware of the full danger they had been in. Their lives returned to normal, but the mystery was just beginning. Now alone with the flight crew, Cooper gave new instructions. He ordered the plane to take off again, heading toward Mexico City. He demanded a low altitude of about 10,000 feet. He requested the landing gear remain partially lowered. He specified a slower airspeed. These were very specific technical instructions. This detail puzzled investigators later. How did he know so much about the aircraft? The Boeing 727 was unique because it had a rear staircase that could be lowered mid-flight. Very few people knew about that feature. After refueling, the plane took off once more into the night. Rain began to fall harder. The sky turned black. Strong winds pushed against the aircraft. Below stretched miles of thick forest and rough terrain in Washington state. It was cold, near freezing temperatures. About 30 minutes into the flight, Cooper told the flight attendants to join the pilots in the cockpit and close the door. He wanted to be alone. Imagine him standing there in the dim cabin light, a man in a suit. A bag filled with $200,000 in $20 bills, 4 parachutes. Wind beginning to howl outside. At approximately 8:13 p.m., the cockpit crew noticed a warning light indicating that the rear stairway had been lowered. Soon after, they felt a sudden shift in the aircraft, as if weight had moved or disappeared. That was the moment Cooper jumped. He tied the money around his waist. He secured a parachute. He lowered the rear staircase. Cold air rushed into the cabin. The roar of wind filled the plane, rain cut through the darkness, and then he stepped into the night. No one saw him fall. No one saw his parachute open. There was no final communication, just darkness below and storm clouds above. When the plane landed in Reno, Nevada, authorities searched it carefully. They found Cooper's black clip-on tie. They found 2 unused parachutes, but Cooper was gone. The search began immediately. The FBI launched one of the largest investigations in its history, codenamed Noryak, short for Northwest Hijacking. Agents searched forests, rivers, and mountains. Helicopters scanned the terrain. Soldiers and volunteers walked through mud and thick trees looking for a parachute or a body. Weeks passed. Nothing was found. Investigators analyzed every detail. They studied his tie. Years later, microscopic particles found on it suggested he may have worked in aerospace or metal industries. Some particles were rare metals used in aircraft manufacturing during the 1960s and 1970s. This clue created new theories about his identity. The ransom money was closely monitored. Banks were alerted to watch for the recorded serial numbers. For years, none of the bills appeared in circulation. Then, in 1980, 9 years later, a young boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sand along the Columbia River during a family outing.